Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and we have a lot to talk about today, man. A lot. First of all, cornerback Emmanuel Forbes is getting surgery on his hand. How long will he be out? Will they end up putting him on IR? We're going to talk about all of that. Also, Jayden Daniels, rookie quarterback, won Offensive Rookie of the Week. Is he destined to win Offensive Rookie of the Year? We're going to talk about that. Also, we definitely got to talk about how furious Adam Peters was in that tunnel leaving that Buccaneers loss. What does that mean? Does that bode well for some of the players on this team right now? Also, the Washington Commanders went and signed a freak athletic tackle that I told y'all about in one of my mock drafts before we even got to the official draft way earlier this year. We're going to dive into all of that and more. And just to also let you know, this video is sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. And before we dive into everything, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content, man. I really appreciate y'all. I already did my whole preview video breaking down the different matchups, advanced stats, injury updates, and things like that for the upcoming game against the Giants. Make sure you go check that out. I did that yesterday. If you're not a channel member, go become one because I'm pumping out quick little 10 to 20 minute film sessions exclusively for the channel members only. And make sure y'all pull up because I will be live streaming that Giants game, all 4 quarters, play by play, plus additional analysis. And there's certain people I'm going to really be focusing on, like Brandon Coleman at left tackle, potentially starting. We have Jayden Daniels at quarterback. Of course, we're always going to keep a microscope on him. I want to see how Mike Sanford still responds after his disappointing week 1 game and things like that. So make sure you pull up for that live stream for analysis like that. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this video, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so first of all, Ian Rappaport is where I first saw it tweeted. He said the Commanders cornerback Emmanuel Forbes Jr. will undergo surgery tomorrow to repair a torn UCL in his thumb, a blow to the secondary and the former first-round pick. By having the procedure now, Forbes will fix an issue that would have been a problem all season. So basically, Ian Rappaport is saying that this is the type of thing that if, like, when in doubt, he could have maybe played through it all season, but it's probably better to just go ahead and knock out that surgery now. Maybe miss some time. We're not exactly sure how much time he will miss. That's going to be determined whether or not they put him on IR. So we'll see how that goes. But basically, just go ahead and get the surgery out the way and be 100% sooner rather than later, rather than just being at like 80 or 90% all season because of your hand. I mean, you're a corner, and I know he may not be the most physical corner out here doing it, but you still need your hands. You still got to press. You still got to be physical on the outside, at the very least to shed a tackle to go make a play against the run. And how about tackling without your hands? It's already hard to tackle as a corner, especially a corner built like him with your hands. Imagine if he's down a hand. So yeah, it's definitely worth it. I mean, if he's hurt, he might as well not even be on the field because he already doesn't look that good fully healthy, let alone hurt, man. It's just not worth it. So go ahead and get that surgery, come back stronger and better. I hope. I'm rooting for you. Shouts out to Sam 48. He brings up a couple of good points. He said if Washington doesn't put Forbes on IR, expect him back within 4 weeks. That's a good point because IR is a minimum of 4 weeks. But if they don't put him on there, because I mean, strategically, if he can't play for you for a few weeks, it would make a lot of sense to just go ahead and throw him on IR. That way you can use that roster spot for another player that you can upgrade from the practice squad or sign off of a different team. A free agent that may just be out there sitting around, who knows? But either way, if they don't put him on IR, that means that they truly expect him back within 4 weeks. If you put him on IR, he has to miss a minimum of 4 weeks. And again, if they don't do that to be able to use another roster spot on somebody else, that means that they truly expect him to be back. And the injury is not that serious. Sam 48 also said until then, the outside corner rotation figures to be Benjamin St-Juste, Noah Igbenogany, and Michael Davis. But we do got to point out the fact that, yeah, Noah Igbenogany did share snaps with Forbes. Like Benjamin St-Juste was the true starter. Then there was like a rotation combination of Forbes and Noah Igbenogany, but Michael Davis did not play a single snap on Sunday against the Buccaneers. So let me throw that out there. And if Emmanuel Forbes has to miss any time, if he ends up not playing against the Giants, which I'm assuming he won't, because this surgery, we'll see what type of surgery he ends up getting, how long he's out for. But assuming that Michael Davis, will have to play, is that something we need to worry about? Because they threw Emmanuel Forbes out there, even though he wasn't very good. They kept throwing him out there. Even though he got, it seemed like at a certain point, benched for Noah Igbenogany, Michael Davis was not inactive. They could have thrown him out there at any time, and they chose to not throw him out there. So I don't know if he's hurt and we just don't know about it. If he's just worse than I thought talent-wise, I don't know. But that just sounds like the same guy that they didn't want to play week 1, they may end up having to play him week 2 against the Giants, and maybe that's something we need to worry about. Also, shouts out to John Com because he tweeted, not sure yet if he'll go on IR, might not have to. We'll see. So that's just some insight on that. Maybe he will not be out at least 4 weeks. Maybe he only misses this week. Maybe he doesn't miss this week at all. Maybe he misses a couple of weeks. But from what it seems, now granted, we're waiting for the official results for after he gets the surgery again, which is tomorrow. I guess we'll know by then, sometime tomorrow evening or something like that. Then we'll know how much time he'll actually miss. But if he does end up going on IR and has to miss any extended period of time, that is a major setback for his development. And outside corner was already looking like a free agency and/or first 3 rounds priority of the draft going into the 2025 offseason. But now it's like 100% is, man. Also, is Forbes done in DC? Because depending on how much time he misses, will he have had enough time to prove how good he can actually be? Good enough to at least stay on the roster? You see Adam Peters is not playing with people, man. With him missing games due to his injury, those are more games that he's falling behind and not developing and getting better. And just to remind you, they traded Jahan Dotson, and Jahan Dotson was easily a better receiver than Forbes was a corner during their times here together at the same time. So if Adam Peters was willing to trade away Jahan Dotson, he wouldn't blink twice at trading away Emmanuel Forbes this offseason. But the problem is, what could you even get for Emmanuel Forbes at this point? Could you even get pocket lint in return? And I'm rooting for Emmanuel Forbes. I hope everything works out. I hope he eventually becomes a good player, but it's not looking good for him right now. And shouts out to Craig Hoffman because I agree. He says sucks for Forbes, man. But hopefully the reset is good for him in the long term, and this is obviously best for his health. I completely agree. And it's crazy because he was just a full participant in practice yesterday. Nothing was wrong. We knew about the injury, but we didn't think surgery. He was a full participant, not limited, full, as if everything was perfectly good to go based on the injury report and everything that Dan Quinn said yesterday. So this definitely caught me by surprise, but it kind of does make sense. And shouts out to Felix Trammell because I agree. He said that, this is a way to protect him and sit him at the same time. This is very, very telling that there may be something to that. This may be a situation where the injury may not necessarily require him to be out that long, but maybe they make it seem like it does just to kind of protect him after a really bad week 1 loss, give him a little bit more time to learn the defense, then throw him out there, maybe to protect his confidence or something like that. That's an interesting theory. It may not necessarily be true, but I'm not saying that it's impossible. And also, too, man, poor Emmanuel Forbes, because people already got jokes on the internet, dog. JP Finley himself even said, imagine the conversation for the Commanders coaches in front office. Hey, Forbes needs surgery. Should we do it now or wait? How many people scream to wait? And that's a good point. It's hilarious. And man, I really feel bad for Forbes. Then my boy Mark Phillips said, I'm not sure how the Giants overcome this. Basically joking that, with Emmanuel Forbes on the field, that technically makes us a worse team. So now that Emmanuel Forbes is not on the field, what will the Giants do to basically score? Is what he said. He basically said Forbes is that much of a liability. Again, I'm rooting for the kid. I really hope everything works out. I like his personality. So I really, really want him to become a good player. Hopefully he can come back again, like I said earlier, stronger and better. Not sure that he will, but I'm rooting for it, man. He's here. It's not like I'm not saying that he's going to go out there and become a Pro Bowler or a Hall of Famer, but once we spent the first round pick for him, man, he's one of ours. And I just hope that he eventually develops into a good player. Do I believe he will? Not necessarily, but I'm going to keep rooting for it at the very least, because I don't like throwing away first round picks, man. I'm not in the business of just throwing away first round picks. So I hope it works out. It doesn't look like it ever will, but, and I know, it definitely doesn't seem like he'll he'll ever live up to the first round pick that he was. But I don't know, man. I can't help but at least root for the guys, man. They're on my team. Now, moving on, speaking of rooting for somebody, shouts out to Jayden Daniels and shouts out to all of y'all that made sure y'all voted, because Pepsi announced that Jayden Daniels has been voted as the Pepsi Zero Sugar NFL Rookie of the Week for Week 1. That's including all rookies on offense, NFC, AFC, quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end, offensive line. Jayden Daniels won Offensive Rookie of the Week. And just to remind you of his stats from week 1, 17 to 24 passing. Even though, granted, some of these stats came in garbage time, but he still looked really good. And Logan Paulson and Craig Hoffman brought up a great point to kind of push back against that whole garbage time thing, because yeah, some of that wasn't garbage time, but it was also once we got later into the game that we could finally run the offense that Cliff Kingsbury really wants to run. Their theory is that Dan Quinn doesn't want them running up tempo and things like that, no huddle, because it's going to, force the defense to come back out on the field sooner. They're going to be tired. They're not going to play as well and be as efficient. And so they kind of had to slow things down once we got to the end of the game, especially once we were already losing by a margin to where this game is probably over. Cliff Kingsbury was able to run that offense the way that he wanted to bring out the gifts and the talents and the strengths of Jayden Daniels. And then that's when we got way better. So I can see the argument. Yeah, it was garbage time, but also I think that offense was just a more natural version of what Cliff Kingsbury and Jayden Daniels want to do. So we'll see how that goes. By the way, 17 to 24 passing, 184 passing yards, 88 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, and most importantly, no turnovers, man. I think he had like 1 turnover-worthy throw, apparently, play or whatever they considered. I think that was because of the fumble, but that wasn't even his fault. The man got hit within like less than 2 seconds. Cornelius Lucas got beat so bad. I'm still confused as to how Pro Football Focus did not credit Cornelius Lucas with that sack. I'm just flabbergasted how he had like a top 10 pass protection grade from Pro Football Focus from last week. I don't get that one at all. But yeah, man, at the very least, Jayden Daniels was at least the best of the 3 rookie quarterbacks in week 1. Now, I mean, maybe there's a debate to be had about all of the offensive rookies around the NFL and different positions and things like that. But out of the quarterbacks, Jayden Daniels was easily the best. I mean, look on the screen right now. Caleb Williams. I mean, Jayden Daniels was more efficient, through 5 less passes, completed 3 more of them, and had nearly double his yards. And Caleb Williams did not have 2 rushing touchdowns. Jayden Daniels did. Then when you look at Bo Nix was throwing the ball way more. He had 18 more pass attempts and yet had 46 more yards passing. Also had 2 interceptions with no touchdowns. Jayden Daniels was clearly the best rookie quarterback, and there are a lot of things we can nitpick from Jayden Daniels' week 1 start. Week 1 debut of his NFL career, things like that. It was not perfect. I wouldn't even say it was great. There's an argument to be had that it wasn't even necessarily good. But one thing for sure, 2 things for certain, it was way better than those other 2 quarterbacks that started as rookies in week 1. Now, moving on, I do also want to point out the fact that both Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin both won the award twice each their rookie seasons. So I'm assuming that, just based on how Commanders rookies go, I'm saying, the great offensive ones, maybe Jayden Daniels is destined to win it at least twice. But I mean, if he's trying to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, you probably got to win it more than twice, because Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin neither were really close to winning Offensive Rookie of the Year. You probably got to win it at least like 5 times to get there or something like that. And shouts out to @Bob Glauber on Twitter talking about Jayden Daniels. He said he's got the it factor. You can't quantify that. You can't qualify it. It's just there. He's got what it takes mentally to overcome the early rookie stuff. The sky's the limit with him, unquote. And I love that. But it's not even just like media members and beat reporters. You have the Giants defensive coordinator Shane Bowen himself talking to New York reporters about Jayden Daniels earlier today. He was asked, what have you seen from Washington Commanders quarterback Jayden Daniels? He said, quote, explosive. He eats up grass. If he gets loose and gets vertical, he's eating up grass in a hurry. Led them in rushing. I think he had 88 yards rushing. I think he was decisive with getting the ball out. He went 17 of 24. The passer rating was above 90. Had a really good first game, in my opinion, for a rookie to go out there and do what he did. Talented. We're going to have to be ready for everything from him, from being able to match and cover to also being able to keep him corralled and not let him get loose on us. That is, and unquote, that's a lot of respect from an opposing defensive coordinator that you're about to go up against the next week. People are taking notice that Jayden Daniels definitely showed some flashes. Again, he wasn't perfect. I wouldn't even say he was great, but he showed flashes. And most importantly, just mentally, he looked like a guy that was willing to do whatever it took to win. Need you to protect yourself a little bit better. Need you to learn how to slide better rather than somersaulting forward like he did at least once or twice. But man, there's definitely some hype around him. There's something as fans we can build hope towards. Like, man, we probably have something going. Now, granted, it's one of those situations where it seems like we plugged up in like a sinking ship. We plugged up the quarterback hole that was allowing water to pour in. But then it's like when we did that, some of the other holes opened up. Now, granted, quarterback is the hardest thing to find, and not only the NFL, but really all of sports, a good quarterback. And not to say that we already know for sure we have one, but there's a lot of room for optimism there. But we got to get the rest of the team going, because Caleb Williams played that bad and still won. Jayden Daniels played clearly better than Caleb Williams and still lost by a wide margin. Now, granted, Jayden Daniels did go against arguably one of the better teams in the NFL in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, you got to remember, they beat the Eagles last year in the wild card like 33-9, 32-9 or something like that. The same Eagles that found a way to do that to the Packers. I mean, granted, they won 34-29, but that game felt worse than that. And they started that game off terribly. They had like back-to-back turnovers and still found a way to win that game. And those same Eagles that are one of the best teams in the NFL, Tampa Bay Buccaneers did them dirty in the wild card playoffs last year. So do not sleep on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I just think they're a great team. I also feel like we're not a team that's there yet, of course, but I also feel like we need to give the Tampa Bay Buccaneers their credit. I think especially in this fan base, we need to give the Tampa Bay Buccaneers more credit of being great than, you know, looking at how bad the Commanders are. I don't think we're that bad. I think the Buccaneers were just that good. But now, my last point as far as Jayden Daniels goes, is he destined to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, man? Even over a Caleb Williams, he outperformed him in week 1, but is that something that can last throughout the season? Enough to the point that Caleb Williams is the bet not favorites right now for Jayden Daniels to surpass him. And my question is, will the award be given to the guy who wins the most games or the guy that just straight up plays the best? Because so far, Jayden Daniels has been playing the best, but so far, Caleb Williams looks like he's destined to win the most games. That's my main question. So far, from what it looks like, they're giving it to the guy that plays the best. And so if they keep it like that, Jayden Daniels probably has an honest shot to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I'm rooting for him, man. Now, before we move on to the second half of this video, we have 3 more major things to really talk about, and then a couple of random things at the end as well. Before we get to all of that, again, this show is provided by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino, and if you're looking for a new sportsbook, it's gotta be BetUS, man. It's gotta be, man. First of all, they have the fastest payouts in the industry, and I know y'all want y'all money fast. I know I do, and right now, BetUS is offering you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits for up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. That's YOUTUBE 150. They have the fastest and easiest deposit and withdrawal process out here doing it, so it's kind of like, why not? And while we're here, let's also take a look at some bets that we can get into directly from the BetUS site itself. So now, after that loss, which is still confusing me because we went into that game as underdogs, but after that Tampa Bay Buccaneers loss, as of right now, as far as winning in the NFC East, I believe our odds went down. Like, people are more confident that we will not win it, even though we just lost to one of the better teams in the NFL that people expected us to lose to going into that week. But either way, as of right now, our odds are slightly better than the Giants, but we are plus 2,000 odds to win the NFC East division, of course, behind the Dallas Cowboys and the Eagles. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know why they have the Dallas Cowboys ahead of the Eagles right now, but the Eagles definitely have the better shot. You could even tell by the fact that they have the better money line, the negative 140 versus the Cowboys having plus 125. But I'm not shocked that we're third. The only thing I'm shocked by is that our odds went down after our week 1 loss, which people pretty much expected. But either way, the main point is, though, if you have a free $100 just chilling around, why not go ahead and put it towards this bet? Because if you put $100 today on the NFC East division winners being the Washington Commanders, you can end up getting $2,000 back. Or just say, you just want to put a quick 10 on it. Just forget that. Just put a quick 10. You'll get $200 back. Or the lowest amount that you can bet. Just put a quick $5 on it, man. You can end up winning $100 by the end of the season if we somehow end up winning this division. And I wouldn't say it's as far-fetched as BetUS sports lines think they are right now. If we can get everything together and turn it around, we may surprise some people. And again, right now, BetUS is offering you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits for up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. Again, that's YOUTUBE150. Make sure you go rock with them, man. Now let's get back to the video. So apparently, Commanders insider Lake Lewis Jr. shared the fact that after the game on Sunday, Adam Peters was hot, like livid. And he said, quote, "You did not want to look at him," unquote, while walking through the tunnels to get to the locker room after that loss against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was sick to his stomach, clearly very visibly upset about the situation. And I love that, man. The fact that we have a GM that's that serious about a week 1 loss against a team that won a wild card game last year, and you're the team in the NFL that has the most roster turnover. You may not necessarily be the worst team in the NFL, but you're the newest front office, coaching staff, roster. This may be the most turnover from an organization top to bottom in one offseason in NFL history, man. I mean, really the only way that you can outpace what we did this past offseason was be an expansion team, like to be added as a new team in the NFL. That's the only way you can be newer than what we did last year. And Adam Peters still had higher expectations than us losing. Granted, the score wasn't close, but it could have been worse. We lost way worse than that last year. The team's not as good as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the fact that Adam Peters was that upset about that shows that he really, really cares, man. He's coming from a winning culture of the 49ers. He's probably not used to losing like that. Remember, he was a scout for the Patriots that was winning Super Bowls. He was one of the top scouts and draft decision guys for the Broncos when they won that Super Bowl 50 against my dog Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers, carrying a Ron Rivera coached and led team. And then he's been part of the 49ers for the past few years, who just went to a Super Bowl. So he's fresh from going to a Super Bowl to losing week 1. From Super Bowl in March, February to losing week 1 in early September. I mean, I can see why he would be that upset, but it's still, there's got to be a certain point where you're like, man, it's not it this season. I mean, even by some of the moves and decisions he's made this offseason, trading away Jahan Dotson, you didn't really get better team-wise today by trading away Jahan Dotson. That is a move for the future, for your future selves to be better. You're not necessarily punting on this season. I'm not saying that at all, but they're clearly prioritizing being better long-term than being better in 2024. And the fact that he was still that upset shows that this guy really cares, and that's the type of GM you want. I mean, when was the last time anybody was that upset about not only losing a game, but losing a week 1 game against a great opponent that everybody had you as underdogs going against? Everybody had you as underdogs. The majority of our fan base assumed we would lose that game, and Adam Peters was still upset. So I'm just really happy that we have a GM that cares that much, because when was the last time we've had that? A coach, a GM, anybody that cared that much about us losing, man. And to be sitting there staring at the players as they're walking down the locker room like, you better not look at me. I'll trade you today. I'll trade you tonight. You better not look at me type of thing. Just staring people down like, how dare you? How dare you come back in this locker room and fly back to Virginia after the performance you just put out there. But also, I do want to point out the fact that Lake Lewis also shared in that interview that defensive tackle Jonathan Allen was one of the first people on the bus, and I do not like that. That does show a lack of leadership. I do not like the fact that one of your top leaders on the team, who was complaining so much last year, he was even talking about wanting to ask to be traded and get up out of here, but then as soon as Adam Peters and Dan Quinn and all of those guys come in town, he's like, okay, this is cool, I can get with this, and now you're the first one on the bus. Like, what does that mean? Like that, I really don't like to read into too much read into things like that too much that are kind of like off the field. Like, if there's some people out there that's probably sitting around like, what is the problem with being the first guy on the bus? But that just shows that, he didn't really ride or die with the team. Like, that's like you're supposed to be the one in the locker room, encouraging everybody, we're good to go. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is just one bump in the road. We can recover. We can bounce back next week against the Giants. He's supposed to be one of those guys that's in the locker room, you know, with that type of energy. If him to immediately go to the bus, it just seems like, man, he's just trying to get this week over with. And I mean, that's not the worst thing ever. You know what I'm saying? It's not something that as fans we should panic about, but it's a weird thing for him. I'm not going to overreact to it, but it is weird that he was the first one on the bus. But shouts out to Jayden Daniels MVP, because going back to Adam Peters, he said it's great to know that Adam Peters was visibly angry after the game on Sunday. It shows that he actually cares and is passionate about the team winning and competing. Doesn't matter who you are on the team, if you want to stay long term, you better show up and play, because Adam Peters is watching, man. I'm gonna tell you right now, Adam Peters is definitely watching and taking notes. Again, Dan Quinn preached this whole offseason that you know, granted, you can have a great game in that final third preseason game of the offseason, but we're grading you based on what you've done the entire offseason. This is not just a final exam worth 100% of your grade preseason week 3. And so basically, I feel like the whole mentality of this team is like that. Even Adam Peters, as far as like this entire regular season, we're not just grading you on week 1. We're not even just going to grade you on the final game of the season. Like, if you come out and look like a Pro Bowler the last game of the season, that's noteworthy. But we want to see who's been giving it their all the entire season, week to week, on a weekly basis, who's going out there and giving it 110% consistently all season. If you're not, then Adam Peters is noting that. It doesn't matter how good you look at a certain point in this season. If you flash somewhere late in the season, we need to know that you're one of those guys that's going to give us your all the entire season. So just know, week 1 was noted. Now, granted, again, even on his side of things, there wasn't much he can do this season. I mean, but best believe he's watching every little thing about each and every player, coach, and front office member. Y'all are not safe either, man. Y'all better look right, even as a coach or a front office guy. It's not even just about production and results, especially this year. It's more about the process, the effort, and the mentality. Adam Peters is watching, man. And also, just speaking of building towards the future, as of right now, based on current draft picks and current rankings in the NFL and things like that, we have the 2nd overall pick right now in the 1st round. We have the 33rd overall pick in the 2nd round. We have the 80th overall pick in the 3rd round and the 81st pick in the 3rd round as well from the Philadelphia Eagles. Then we have our own 115th pick in the 4th round. We have our own 186th overall pick in the 6th round. Then we have the 190th pick from the Saints in the 6th round as well. Then we have the Falcons 7th round, which is 220th overall. The Eagles 7th round, 230th overall, and the Saints 7th round as well, 231st overall. So just to let you know, we have what is that, 10 draft picks right now? That's pretty cool. I ain't mad at it. And we have 4 draft picks within the top 80. So, hey, I'll take it right now. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up with even more than that by the time the season we actually get to the draft and things like that. Because, again, Adam Peters is building towards the future. Wouldn't be surprised if other guys end up getting traded, if we can get any value for them. If I had to say, if we're going to be buyers or sellers by we get close to that trade deadline, I'm pretty sure we will be sellers. Also, the Washington Commanders came out with the actual, like, official depth chart heading into week 2 against the Giants. Here you go right here. And really the only thing noteworthy, like, is the fact that Brandon Coleman is starting at left tackle. Remember, Cornelius Lucas technically started last week. Brandon Coleman played quite a bit, and it seemed like every time he was on the field, we scored a touchdown. So I'm still confused as to why we even brought Cornelius Lucas back out there. But I guess it was like a load management type of thing with ramping him up from missing the entire preseason, missing a lot of practice and things like that. But Brandon Coleman's ready to go. Go ahead and start him this week, and just don't look back. And it looks like the depth chart is reflecting that. Also, of course, with the Emmanuel Forbes injury, that means that, you know, Michael Davis and Noah Benogany, who's technically the backup to Mike Sanders still right now at slot corner, they're gonna have to step up and be your starting corners. But other than that, this is all pretty standard, just about. I mean, and to confirm what I said in my game review video, but I questioned it in my preview video leading up to the Buccaneers game, Austin Eckler is one of your starting kick returners. So Olamide Zaccheaus and Austin Eckler back there on kick returns, and Jamison Crowder is your starting punt returner. Outside of that, I mean, that's literally about it. Luke McCaffrey is one of your starting receivers, but we knew that on the official depth chart heading into that Buccaneers game. And he was top 10 out of the entire NFL with a certain separation stat that I mentioned yesterday in my preview video for the Giants. So make sure you go check out that video because I provided some excellent advanced stats. Can't remember the exact stat, but just remember, just all you need to know is that Luke McCaffrey was a top 10 receiver at a separation stat. Like, so, hey, Keep that in mind. That's something to watch out for against the Giants. Maybe this is his game that he'll explode onto the scene. Now, moving on. Next, the Commanders signed rookie offensive tackle Anim Dankwa to their practice squad a few days ago. Dankwa, who played college football at Howard University, measured at 6'8", 353 pounds at the combine, and was first-team All-MEAC selection in 2023. He was signed by the Philadelphia Eagles as an undrafted free agent. And, I mean, y'all should already know who this guy is. If you were keeping track of my mock drafts leading up to this past draft, this 2024 draft, in one of my mock drafts, I took him in the 7th round, 222nd overall. He's originally from Ghana, then he lived in Toronto, and then he went to Howard for college. The native of Brampton, Ontario, measured in at 6'8", 353 pounds with an 85.5-inch wingspan, 35 1/8 inch arms, and 9 3/4 inch hands. That's nearly 10 pounds heavier than the next closest blocker at the combine, man. This is a huge guy, while also being one of the 6 tallest players at the combine out of anybody. Only defensive tackle Devondre Sweat of Texas was heavier at 366 pounds at the combine, and he had a 27.5-inch vertical at the combine at that weight. That is crazy. And just to put it into perspective, Joe Alt at 321 pounds had a 9.92 raw athletic score, and he had a 28-inch vertical while weighing a whole less 32 pounds than Anim Dankwa. And Dankwa also spent the past 5 seasons at Howard University in Washington, D.C., appearing in 39 games and establishing himself as a 3-year starter at left tackle. In 11 games as a senior, he allowed a career-low 11 pressures and 2 sacks while anchoring an offense that averaged nearly 384 yards per game. As a result, he was named first All-Mideastern Athletic Conference this past season, building off of a second-team selection the previous season. So he's a super high-ceiling, built-in-the-lab type of guy, but of course, he's very raw. Coming from Howard University, level of competition obviously wasn't that good, and maybe we've gotten lucky because this is the type of guy that doesn't seem to he's not on a lot of people's radars, and by the fact that he was even available right now, we can bring him onto the practice squad even confirms that. Again, I'm reading directly off of my draft notes from him, and when I did my mock draft, mocking him to us before the draft in April. Luckily for us, we are the Washington Commanders, so he was playing in a local area, and we caught wind of him. And with this crazy high ceiling, you may not want to try and get this guy as an undrafted free agent. I was saying you may want to take him in the 7th round just in case, but we still ended up getting him way later down the line, so I'm happy about that. And Dane Brugler and Justin M. and a few others were saying that he was projected to be a 7th round pick, but he ended up going undrafted free agent, so I'll take it. But either way, my point is, man, I'm really happy to have him, man. And I even gave a comp. I mean, if we're talking about, especially with how raw he is, and with him being such a big, huge offensive tackle, don't forget, Cornelius Lucas is a huge guy. I would say this guy is Cornelius Lucas with a higher ceiling. I would say a significantly higher ceiling. Cornelius Lucas is obviously the better player today, but if we're talking about coming out of college, you know, it's pretty much a toss-up between the two. College version of Cornelius Lucas versus college version of Anim Dankwa. That's probably a toss-up as far as floor and how good they were that day that they were coming out of the draft, or as undrafted free agents or whatever. But like ultimately, like ceiling wise, years down the line, I think this guy has the potential to be even better than what Cornelius Lucas is. And again, Cornelius Lucas, even though I completely disagree, was graded a top 10 pass blocking tackle this past week 1 of the 2024 regular season. I think Anim Dankwa could be an even better version of that eventually. It won't happen this season. It probably wouldn't even happen next season. But this is a guy that you just kind of keep to the side, keep on your practice squad, let him develop. And hey, man, maybe that's potentially your right tackle of the future to replace Andrew Wiley eventually. Andrew Wiley can stick around for maybe the next year or two. Maybe. I don't know. You may even want to be aggressive about that, be pretty proactive and find a replacement for him sooner than that. But you never know. Maybe this could be your long-term answer at right tackle, because I already feel like we have our long-term answer at left tackle. I'm not worried about it. I really believe Brandon Coleman has Pro Bowl potential to him, and I feel like it's pretty safe to say that. But Anim Dankwa, maybe this is a guy that we just kind of put in the refrigerator for now. We let him develop in the back, in the shadows, and then we just bring him out of nowhere 2-3 years from now, and he's a really good right tackle for us. At the very least, is he potentially an upgrade over Andrew Wiley? I will take that. Now, also, before we get up out of here, Ben Standig let us know that it seems like Jayden Daniels really likes pre-game waffles. And so fans attending the game opener, the home opener, will receive waffle mix before Sunday's game. That's really interesting. So shouts out to Biscuit. If you go to that game, I'm not sure if it's everybody, if it's just some people. It sounds like it's everybody, but we'll see. It seems like you will get some waffle mix if you go to that game on Sunday, which is pretty cool, man. I wish I could go. I would take some waffle mix, I ain't gonna lie. Also, before we go, shouts out to my boy Ken Johannesson, because he tweeted this a while ago, back on August 31st. But just to let you know, the Commanders had scouts at that Clemson, Georgia game, week 1 of the college football season a couple of weeks ago. So keep in mind. Now, as a Georgia Bulldog fan, and the Commanders have a terrible history of just not bringing in Georgia Bulldogs even when it's beneficial. They had so many chances to get George Pickens, so many players off of those national championship, back-to-back national championship teams that they could have brought in, and they just decided not to. They just keep choosing guys from other teams. I mean, really, after Champ Bailey, we've just completely avoided Georgia Bulldogs, and we traded him away. I mean, Bakari Rambo didn't work out. We brought over, I can't remember his name right now, Davis, the linebacker from the Carolina Panthers. By the time we brought him here, he was basically an on-the-field coach, not really a guy that can contribute at linebacker. I mean, we had the quarterback, I can't even remember his name right now. We went to national championships with him, thank good. Jake Fromm, we had him. I think we had Eli Wolf at tight end, practice squad guy as well. They're just completely avoiding Georgia Bulldog players, but it's okay. It's cool. It's cool. But hey, now we got guys going to Georgia Bulldog games, maybe under this regime, like the Rivera regime, the Jay Gruden regime, and even some regimes before them were avoiding Georgia Bulldog players like we were the plague. But maybe Adam Peters and company are hip to game, and these are just some of the most talented guys in the country. So even though this is a Commanders video, I had to talk about that, man. You know, anytime the Georgia Bulldogs and the Commanders collide, you know it's happy birthday to Rico, man. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all the content, man. I really appreciate y'all for supporting all of the videos. Again, if you're not a channel member, go become one, because I'm doing film sessions like multiple times a week. Now that I have access to them and things like that. It's exclusively for channel members. It's not like my long hour-long ones. Maybe I will do some really long film sessions where like the channel members get the fully uncut hour-long versions and everybody else gets like the 10 to 20 minute version. But for now, I'm just doing quick 10 to 20 minute film sessions for channel members only. So if you're not one, go become that so you can go get that. We already did the Jamin Davis one. I'm thinking next, probably sometime later today, this evening, tonight or something like that, it'll probably be Mike Samra still, maybe Emmanuel Forbes. Be on the lookout for that, man. And also, man, let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything discussed in this video. We talked about a lot in this video, man. Let me know how you feel about the Emmanuel Forbes situation. So we sit him long term. Is it time to give up on him? Jayden Daniels winning Offensive Rookie of the Week. How do you feel about his chances winning Offensive Rookie of the Year? How do you feel about Adam Peters being that upset about a loss that pretty much most people expected us to end up with? And I'm not surprised. I'm surprised that the game was even that close, to be honest with you. So let me know how you feel about Adam Peters' expectations for this team. Let me know how you feel about us signing a freaky tackle and an Mdankwa with a very high ceiling to the practice squad. Maybe a Jordan Mailata situation that the Eagles had, getting him from the rugby league, I believe from Australia or something like that. Let me know how you feel about the Commanders finally looking at Georgia Bulldog players for the draft and things like that. Let me know how you feel about all of that. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my points. And of course, do not leave this video without leaving a like. And also, just to remind you, this video was sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. And if you don't do nothing else, please make sure you gamble responsibly, man. I really appreciate y'all. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.